We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming, Silver Spoons, already in progress. Welcome to the Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
It's the
She really going out with him.
She
Sorry,
must
I just
be
had to.
somebody's baby.
It's such a good soundtrack. Sorry.
Yeah, a great soundtrack. This is the second in our back-to-school September month.
Yeah.
Last week
yeah.
was Stand By Me, and next week is something, a deep cut, 3 o'clock high.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I haven't seen that movie in like probably 30 years.
It's great.
I'm really excited to watch it.
But you know what else is great? Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, take yourself back to 1982. January 7th, the Commodore 64 8-bit home computer is launched by Commodore International in Las Vegas, to be released in August.
Wait, is Las Vegas the best Las Vegas?
When you're in Las Vegas, you don't talk about Las Vegas.
It's the most Las Vegas of all Las Vegases.
It's very lost. It became the all-time best-selling single personal computer model up to that point.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had friends. I never had one, but I had friends that had one.
Oh, yeah?
And
Yeah, I had a
did
friend.
you use a
that had one.
cassette tape?
It was a cartridge. I mean,
or
was it a cassette?
It was
tape?
like a cassette, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's been a long time. I remember playing this G.I. Joe game on the Commodore 64. My friend, anyway.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah,
We had,
it was,
What was that guy? Plimpton.
Yeah.
Not Martha Plimpton, but
George
Plimpton. It was the one that, did all the commercials for it.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's
it
right.
had great sports games. It did.
January 30th, the first computer virus, the Elk Cloner, written by 15-year-old Rich Skrenta, is found. It infects Apple II computers via floppy disk.
Yeah, and then after that, Apple never had another
They
virus.
they fixed it after that. It was just
floppy.
interesting because the kid did it just because he could.
Yeah,
and
and he called it what? The elk prostate?
Elk Cloner.
Oh, the elk cloner.
Yeah.
Like an elk, ELK?
Yeah, ELK. I don't know why. Maybe he was from like Montana
I
or
was gonna
Minnesota or
say,
something.
The elk cloner. He was
was
15.
Those computers that came first to
Like
Montana.
the worst name. I'm just bummed out because that was the first virus. It could have
Yeah.
been like, the Penetrator or the
Something,
Vox
yeah.
Destroyer.
Well, it took a little time for it to get cool.
Elk. What a moron.
August 17th, the first compact discs are produced in Germany.
Das ist gut, ja.
Yeah, das ist very good.
Das ist gut.
In just 4 days prior to that, August 13th, on a Friday, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is released. The $2.5 million opening weekend went on to earn $27 million off of a $4.5 million budget.
Yeah, that's a nice return.
It's a good chunk of
Not
change.
a comedy, too. I mean, comedies didn't
And an
necessarily
R-rated
make,
comedy. Yeah.
make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, I remember seeing it. That was awesome, man. I snuck into that baby.
Oh, yeah. Were you underage?
Yes, I was only a child, man.
Oh, that's true.
I was only
Yeah,
12
you
when
would
it
have been
came
12.
out. I
Oh,
was
wow.
a youngin'.
I bet this was a very good movie for you then.
Shaped my life.
We just rewatched it, and I gotta say, I forgot how much nakedness there was in this movie.
No, well, that's the 80s, man. The
Yeah,
70s
yeah.
and 80s was... The 70s and the 80s, those were the best times for teen comedies because they were so real.
Yeah.
Kids was, extremely real, too. But
In a very weird way.
But like the comedies had a lot of heart and a lot of like consequences to them.
Yeah.
There's abortion, there's
Yeah.
teen pregnancy, which leads to abortion, or adoption
or
or
not,
babies.
yeah.
Pro-choice, make your choice. It has drugs. It has drunk driving. It has everything.
It is, yeah.
That
yeah.
happens when you're a kid, but it is done in a very realistic way. Like even the wreck with Spicoli.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
The little
football
brother.
player's little brother, and and they.
I like sex.
It's such a great. He's like,
Sorry.
See the new Playboy?
It was just so out of
Oh.
nowhere. I like sex.
But that's such a kid thing to say
Sorry,
too,
yeah,
because
yeah.
he's talking about boobies. But even that, like, you could do that. You could
Yeah,
spray paint
yeah.
the car and get out of shit
Yeah,
by
yeah.
being clever.
Yeah.
I got out of so much stuff when I was a kid by being clever, I mean,
Yeah.
I should have been in jail or a ton of stuff, but that's just what it was like back then. If you were a clever kid, you could get away, murder.
Mostly. You get away with mostly
No,
everything.
but, I mean, there was nothing gross, but there was like...
If you were murdering people, then
Yes.
you probably had bigger problems.
We weren't getting away with murder or any sort of gross stuff, but it was we did a lot of vandalism.
Yeah.
We did a lot of thievery. We did a lot of what kids did, mailbox, like in Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Mailbox baseball.
Yeah, smashing the mailboxes. Yeah.
That was a tradition that was carried on through the 80s.
I would be so pissed.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Yeah, seriously, looking at things from an older lens. But yeah, I mean, there were movies like Last American Virgin.
Yeah.
That was a comedy, but it had this, and again, it dealt with abortion in a really realistic way. Kids were portrayed as they were.
Right.
More so in that decade than any other.
Yeah, I would agree.
90s got stylized with the She's All That, some of this and the do's. But back then, man, it was like, these are the kids. They got pimples. They got whatever. Phoebe Cates, most gorgeous woman ever to live in the planet. Yes, but she still looked like she could go to high school.
Yeah.
They all looked like they could go to high school, you know?
Yeah, they definitely, I mean, because most of them were under 22, 21, 20. Like, most of them were 19. Which the irony of this is that the original book that the movie is based on was written by someone who graduated from high school at the age of 15. Cameron Crowe, who is apparently a super genius. Yeah. Because he was...
he and I have something in common. We both skipped kindergarten.
Oh, did you? I did not. Yes. My parents made sure
both
I had
super
that.
genii.
Well, yes, that's what I was assuming.
Yes. Well, I did want to make that clear.
Okay. Yeah, so he skipped kindergarten and 2 grades in elementary school. Cameron Crowe, the name might sound familiar because he is a director now. He's still a writer, but he has directed a bunch of movies since then, like Say Anything.
And his last name sounds like that of a bird.
That is true. That is true.
A crow.
When he graduated from high school at 15. Right after he graduated from high school, he started writing for Rolling Stone.
Just like me.
Yeah. More things that Jim has in common with Cameron Crowe.
I wanted to write for Mad Magazine.
He eventually made a movie about it called Almost Famous, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. Patrick Fugit plays him as a kid, but he would tour around, and it was... I almost wonder if it was Rolling Stone being like, hey, there's a 16-year-old here, don't be too nasty, and like...
Look, man, like I said... Kids were not really coddled back then.
No.
It's like, if you could do something, do it. There was just this kind of get up and go. I don't know if it was a get up and go attitude, but just basically a like,
just do it.
Yeah. The kid's good at it. Let him do it.
Yeah.
I mean, his mom let him go.
Touring
around at 16.
His first cover story was a tour write-up, the Allman Brothers Band. At the age of 16. He was Rolling Stone's youngest contributing editor. And I think a lot of it was that he would cover these newer rock bands that the older writers at Rolling Stone just wouldn't.
Right.
They didn't like the music, so they just wouldn't do it. And he was like, whatever, man, let's go have fun. And,
well, he also impressed... there was a rock writer. What was his name? Banks something?
Lester Bangs?
Yeah.
Lester Bangs,
yeah. That he... was in contact with that helped him get to where to Rolling Stone and all that. He recognized, he pestered him enough to
right. He didn't just magically start working.
Yeah,
for,
the kid had a lot
Stone.
of moxie.
Yeah,
Crow pushed. It's these kids that just are relentless to the point where the person's just like, fine,
all right,
we'll do it. Just leave me alone.
Go cover these bands we don't want to. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, but it took a lot of persistence and a lot of work.
Oh yeah. When Rolling Stone moved from L.A. to New York in 1977, Crowe stayed behind, but at the age of 20 was already getting bored with writing about bands.
Yeah, geez, man. Couldn't even buy a beer. Well, back then, I think 18 was the age.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
But couldn't even, at this age, buy a beer, and he's bored going on tour.
He wants to retire already.
Some great bands. Yeah, crazy.
At the age of 22, he came up with the idea to pose undercover as a high school student and write about his experiences, which... don't know if that would be possible now.
No, 100% no. Like I said, back then, things were different, but, as soon as somebody over 18 is...
No, it's immediately like, why? Why are you doing
even
this?
That, because they did this story with Drew Barrymore, Never Been Kissed.
Right.
And it's gross.
If
you watch it, it's gross. Especially David Arquette. Ugh. Sorry, man. He's great, but... It's gross. It was a gross part.
Yeah, it was. So Simon Schuster, he went to them and said, "Hey, I want to do this book," and they gave him a contract and said, "Sure, we'll give you money." So he re-enrolled in school as Dave Cameron at Claremont High School in San Diego.
Nice, my old stomping ground.
Yeah. And he wrote the book. It was called Fast Times at Ridgemont High, a true story. It came out in 1981. It was a fictional account. It wasn't like he became friends with some of these people and hung out with them, but it was all fictionalized.
Yeah, but I mean, the names and stuff were fictionalized.
Yeah.
But the stories were pretty much.
Yeah. I think I think for the most part it was true and honest.
Story,
to
yes. He took the experiences he had and made it into a narrative.
Right, exactly. Thank you. That was exactly what I was trying to say.
Why I'm a super genius, Adam, and skipped kindergarten.
So it just showed teenagers doing teenager things, like going to school and at the beach and at the mall where some of them worked, their homecoming, their graduation, and how they had these social cliques and these sexual encounters and, about growing up. It was something that really hadn't been done before.
No. There were so many great movies after, like I said, Last American Virgin, then there was Valley Girl, which was another really that was like the darkest side. The Valley side.
Great movie. I've not seen that in a long time.
Great movie. Kind of like Stand By Me. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that's not really about anything.
Yeah,
you're just hanging out with these guys.
There's no real overarching plot or anything. It's it's a year in their lives.
100%. And Fast Times is the closest you're going to get to going to high school in the 80s. I went to 3 different high schools, but this was basically my public high school year. Was this? Wow, because it was. Everything about it, going to the mall, the football team, everybody laughing at the cheerleaders because they're trying too hard, all that stuff, the teachers, the performances are so good.
Yeah.
They cast that movie so well. I'd probably jump ahead here.
So, we'll get to it. There were so many things about this movie that is... absolutely my favorite, which I did not remember at all, was the science teacher having the super hot wife.
Oh yeah,
which I had high school teachers like that, where you're like, you're so weird looking. How did you get this like Playboy model?
Money, small town money, baby.
Small town money. I'm a scientist. It's what I do. Anyway, so before the book was even published, it got optioned to be made into a movie.
Sure.
I looked it up, and the book is out of print. Has been out of print, which surprises me.
Yeah, it's weird.
You can pick up the paperback on eBay for just under $400.
Nice.
Or the hardback for $365.
Excellent.
But it's not in print, which is very odd.
That is weird. I'm sure nothing untoward happened in the... How long was he there? A year?
I'm assuming a year. I mean,
sure.
He had to. It had to have been. Yeah.
He was blowing doobs. With underage
I'm
kids.
sure he was. I mean, he was an underage kid blowing dudes.
I wonder if he would hey, I got a fake ID. It says my name's Cameron Crowe. And he bought all the beer. That looks like such a good ID, man. That's a great fake ID.
This new Dave guy's pretty awesome. He's pretty awesome. So Universal Pictures hired Cameron Crowe to adapt the film into a screenplay. It totally launched his career, which we just talked about.
But a brilliant choice because it would take somebody to go through that experience to write that script.
Yeah.
Which actually the first script wasn't that script.
No, it was not. Because eventually, when they hired Amy Heckerling to direct it, she did not like the first script.
Did they want like David Lynch?
They originally reached out to David Lynch, and to David Lynch's credit, said, and I quote, "This is funny. Not really my material."
Well, and David Lynch didn't realize how funny he was back then, probably. But yeah, I mean, because he was just coming off of Eraserhead then. He hadn't done...
Yeah, Fast Times would have been a great follow-up to Eraserhead.
I would have absolutely given my left arm to see David Lynch's Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Oh my God, the polka music.
Oh, I love the man so
but
much.
That would have been amazing. Could you imagine?
That would have been great. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he at least knows himself and knows not to get involved.
I'm Mr. Hand, and I'm here to teach you about death.
That's
so Mr. Vargas.
That was Mr. Vargas. It's fine. So they hired Amy Heckerling, who was only like 22 or 23 or something.
Yeah. This was, again, if you listen to the show a lot, this was a time where a lot of people got breaks.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talented young writers and directors, filmmakers. They were giving a lot of women opportunities, a lot more, minority filmmakers. It wasn't anywhere near what it should be. But seriously, it was a time of it was a meritocracy back then, a little bit. If you were good and somebody could grab you, they would grab you because they were all about getting people, coming up.
Yeah, because she had actually grew up in New York, in the city, and had moved to L.A. to go to the American Film Institute. Mm-hmm. And it was her thesis film, Getting It Over With, which was about this 20-year-old girl, or 19-year-old girl who wants to lose her virginity before she turns 20. And Universal loved it. At first they balked on it because she didn't have representation, and she didn't have representation because she was brand new. But eventually they were just like, okay, just come in and we'll find something for you to direct.
Yeah. Well, it's also so silly. All these arbitrary rules that they put in, they kind of keep really talented people from breaking through sometimes because there's this bizarre hierarchy and all these hoops you got to jump through.
I mean, if I was the head of Universal or whoever was trying to hire directors, and I liked this film and they didn't have representation, I would get them representation.
Exactly, help them get to where you want them instead of you got to figure it out yourself. I did.
Agents.
Nobody held my hand. Jerks.
So she liked the script, but thought it had too much studio interference.
Oh, sure.
And read the book and said the book was incredible. Yeah. And sat down with Cameron Crowe and said, hey, we need to make it more like the book.
Sure. I'm sure they totally sanitized it and, made it more.
Sort of. There was a couple producers that were pretty disgusting on the movie. Like during the carrot scene, they wanted them to make it even more graphic. And Amy Heckerling was like, yeah, it's fine.
Gross. But that also, the charm of that scene is that they don't really know what they're doing.
No.
You know what I mean? It's that's the whole point, is so much of this are just kids fumbling around, pretending like they know what the hell's going on when they have no idea what the hell's going on.
No, they really don't have any idea.
Part of me thinks that the Phoebe Cates character is a virgin and completely made up that boyfriend.
Oh, that could totally be. I mean, because you never see the boyfriend.
But her reaction when he wasn't coming seems very real. But it's that could be true. I mean, it's a possibility.
Right, yeah, it's very possible. I mean, it just because she had the older boyfriend, she seemed more mature and.
Yeah, and the greatest tell of all of that is when they're sitting outside by the pool and Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is reading a magazine and she says, "Oh, you have to take this quiz," and they start doing this Cosmo sex quiz. Phoebe Cates, and she's talking about her, absentee boyfriend. And the question is, do you climax? Is it better when you climax first, your partner climaxes first, or you climax together? She's like, oh, together. Yeah, of course. And she's like, oh, so do you always climax with Roy or whatever his name is? Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I think so. Because she doesn't know. It's just like these kids trying to be, and that's what we were trying to do back then. I don't know how it is now with the kids today, but I'm sure it's the same way. I mean, we're all trying to pretend like we were more mature than we were because it was such a weird time, especially coming from grade school to high school, or, getting to that point where you're at the end of high school and getting towards college. It's just, it's such a, we were talking about, there's the scene, with Rat going to Jennifer Jason Leigh. They go on their first date, and he goes inside, and she could not be more clear about what she wants.
The only way could have been if she was just sitting there naked.
Yes, yeah, and even then he'd probably be like,
"Oh, I gotta go."
But that totally makes sense that he's like, "I gotta go," because he's a virgin probably and very inexperienced, and it's just it's scary. And it wasn't. It wasn't progress. It's he's the kind of kid that you need to get to know.
Yeah.
It's going to take a year before they get to the point where they're going to make that decision.
Right.
He's not just looking to get laid, like the moan. It's just such a complicated time.
It was, yeah.
And sexuality is such a complicated issue back then, and they deal with it so honestly in this movie.
Yes. Yes, it's really interesting. I was that kid. Like I was always the one that like the Ratner, who would anytime a woman like hit on me, I got aggressive. All right, bye. I can't deal. I can't deal. I don't know.
Because it's scary. You don't know. I mean, especially being you were kind of a loner and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's like, yeah, of course. I remember too. It was in junior high. There's this whole thing where this friend of mine and I and these girls were all playing and. All of a sudden we're in our underwear and they're all like, and it's just like,
whoa, this happens really fast.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. And, I didn't feel comfortable. It's
right,
not,
right.
It's not Porky's, man. It's not like, everybody trying to, I don't know. I just think they did a really good job of expressing how complicated and frustrating and magical and, everything about sex in high school is, it'll never be like that again. It'll never be like that again because it's all about dancing around the issue. And then, if you're lucky enough or unlucky enough, you end up losing your virginity around that time, probably at prom or homecoming. But,
most likely to somebody older than you.
Showing the pregnancy, and showing the one, the two pump chump. Of Damone,
Jennifer Jason Leigh's reaction during that scene after he has sex with her, just starts putting on his clothes to leave. It was so honest and so raw. And like, she's just kind of like, but like, we're going to be in love now. Yeah. And like, why are you, okay, all right.
Yeah. And it's just insecure. It's just
Uber.
Well, he's a gross guy. He's a very selfish guy. Yeah. You can't look at that time through the lens of a mature-ish adult.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're doing. Like you're just. It's like suddenly there's a situation, and it's like, yeah, sometimes it just happens.
And even he isn't a villain. He's just a jerk, Yeah. And
it was funny because during the movie I was like, oh, he's kind of suave and cool and like whatever, and it was like, oh, you're just a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Like and it's just trying to make it. Oh, it's all fine, man. It's fine. Like you wouldn't like her anyway. Huh?
Yeah. It's well, that's the thing. It's never taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, you wanted it more than me. Yeah. And she's like, take it back. And even he was like, oh, okay, that was pretty. Take it back.
He did. I will give him credit for that. He did. He was like, okay, I realize I'm being a jerk. And like,
but he still didn't give her the 75 bones in a ride.
Did not help her. Nope. Lied about his dad.
That little
in the garage. That little.
Yeah. That's the other thing, too. She calls the day of the procedure. She calls because he's not picking her up. And the mom's like, oh. He said to tell you he's helping his dad in the garage and he'll call you later. Damone comes out of an apartment the next day. Yeah. Mom's a liar. Yeah. There's no garage.
The whole family. Bunch of liars.
Bunch of lying Damones.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk about casting.
Casting.
As
we pointed out before, the second most important part of making a film, number one being the script.
Correct. Script was good. Amy Heckerling and Cameron Crowe really liked it, so they went on to cast the film. They cast Sean Penn. So Sean Penn was a big get for them because he was starting to get a name.
Well, he was in Taps the year before.
Yeah.
And he was amazing in that movie.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, 100% great actor. He apparently on set of Fast Times never got out of character.
He was let's just say difficult even back then.
Your reaction was exactly the reaction of almost everybody on set.
Yeah, didn't they call him like Baby De Niro?
Sean De Niro. Never to his face.
Well, of course not.
But Sean De Niro.
But you know what? I will have to say that if you're going to be in character, that's a pretty fun character to be around.
Yeah.
I mean, Spicoli he's got a good heart.
He's a good dude. I mean, well, yeah. When they first came out, the three of them, his two buddies, Eric Stoltz and Anthony Edwards, and they walk in and they take their shirts off. Did they purposefully like make their faces super dirty? Because it was just like they looked like they were homeless. Like it was really bizarre.
I don't know.
I don't know. It was just because I was like, they're supposed to be surfers. Like what?
Yeah, well, maybe it's smoke. I don't know. They're in that van a lot, smoking weed.
Eric Stoltz was his first feature.
Eric Stoltz, Marty McFly.
Yeah, not Marty McFly.
From Back to the Future.
He had such a good career ahead of him that was cut short by not being in Back to the Future. I'm just kidding.
He made it sound like he died. I was like, wait a minute. No, he went on to do Some Kind of Wonderful, and he had a really he had a good.
No, Eric Stoltz
had a good career.
He was good enough in this that I wanted to see more of him. Like even just the scene where they're before the dance.
We'll see with Anthony Edwards too. Yeah. I would have watched a movie with those three dudes.
Yeah, exactly. I would have done the same.
Spicoli and the Misfits.
So they cast Jennifer Jason Leigh as Stacy. She actually took a job at the Percy's Pizza place in the mall that they ended up shooting.
Yes, and if you have listened to the show before, she is a bit of Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Leigh Moreau.
Yeah, Vic Morrow, and her mom worked on the script for Cujo.
Yes.
Yes.
And her dad was unfortunately killed during the filming of the Twilight Zone, the movie.
Yeah, that was sad. Judge Reinhold.
That happened after this, right?
Yes, that was in 84, 85, I believe. Judge Reinhold was cast as Brad, Stacy's older brother. The main reason he was cast was because he lived upstairs from Amy Heckerling.
Yeah, he's a little long in the tooth. He looked a little old to be in high school.
He looked like he was nearing 30.
But he was great.
Again, also, the more that I saw the movie, the more I was like, God, I want to watch more Judge Reinhold.
Also, it just goes to show what a great actor he is, because he is such a different... Because the next thing he did that was kind of big was Beverly Hills Cop.
Right.
Where he played...
very different.
Yeah. The characters... The character of Brad is so just typical of what it's like for most people at the end of high school. You know, he's got these plans for his senior year. Oh, man, going to break up with my girlfriend because everybody loves me because I'm Brad. I got the hot shot job at the Burger Barn because I'm Brad.
He's Brad, yeah.
And so it's like, it's going to be a great year. I almost got my old Chevy Nova paid off or whatever that.
6 more months. 6 more payments.
6 more payments. And then it all just falls apart. Loses the girlfriend, breaks up with him. He gets fired because of a jerk. It's just, and he gets caught, doing the old Floobity Floobity by Phoebe
Polishing
Cates.
the Bishop.
Yeah. Poor guy. But what a great performance.
He was fantastic.
And then comes out at the end as a hero.
He does. It's such a great scene.
Yeah.
Such a great sequence.
He, strangely enough, he throws coffee in the face of another alum from Beverly Hills Cop, the guy that played Eddie Murphy's buddy at the beginning.
Who got murdered, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he was really great.
But they were both in this. And then I wonder if they were like, hey, remember when we were on Fast Times and you threw the coffee in my face?
I don't think they had scenes together.
Yeah, but they probably went to the rap party together, Adam.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sure they were probably best friends.
Well, let's not go crazy.
Okay. They cast Robert Romanus. I don't know how to say his name.
I think it's Romanus.
As Mike Damone, the aforementioned kind of dirtbag. He was on the TV show Fame, played Psycho Horowitz.
Yes, he was. He was on that show, Adam. He was also on Facts of Life.
He played Snake, Mindy Cohn's boyfriend on Facts of Life.
He was Mindy's boyfriend. Got some tickets for you.
It's really funny because everyone in the movie is just so incredibly charming. Like, they did such a great job casting this. They cast Brian Backer as Mark Ratner, who is, for me, best known for Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol.
Yeah. Moving Violations, wasn't he in that?
Yeah, he was. It was fun. The guy who Ratner was based on actually went on to create the blah, blah, blah for Dummies books.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just that one? Blah, blah, blah for Dummies?
Yeah. It's mainly written for Jim. Phoebe Cates is Linda Barrett.
He was a lot more successful than the actor that played him.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Phoebe Cates is Linda Barrett, who went on to marry Kevin Kline.
Yes.
They're still married.
I believe so.
Yeah.
There was Farrah Fawcett in the 70s and her poster in the bathing suit.
Right.
The one piece.
Yeah.
And then it was Phoebe Cates in the 80s. And every young man was in love with her because, she had a quality. She had something about her and she was beautiful. And it's crazy that she didn't have a bigger career.
Yeah.
Than she did. She went on to do high school movies. Like there was a Private School or something she did.
Yeah.
Another kind of sex comedy. And then she did something with Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
And then they got married.
Yeah, and she didn't. I think she just kind of was the mom, like did her thing.
Maybe.
Like she was
went to
like,
theater.
yeah.
Who knows? She could do whatever she wants.
That is true.
Let's just be honest. It was that pool scene of her taking her top off,
Yeah.
and Princess Leia in the bikini in Return of the Jedi that shaped all these morons and idiots my age into who they are today. That's what did it.
Yeah, I agree. Ray Walston was Mr. Hand, the U.S. history teacher.
Ray Walston from My Favorite Martian.
Yeah, he's so great. I love Ray Walston.
Oh, God, that scene. Okay, you know that one of my very favorite things in the world, one of my very favorite tropes, if not my favorite trope, enemies becoming buds.
Yeah.
And I adore the scene at the end when Mr. Hand comes in and is like, hey, you wasted about 8 hours of my time. I'm here to take it. And the look, whatever Sean De Niro, it was his reactions. You feel so bad for Spicoli. He just looks like such a sad little boy all the time when he's just, especially, you're ripping up a card. You know, when he, like, at the beginning, when Mr. Hand rips up his attendance card, he's just so shocked. You dick. He's not trying to be mean. It's just his reaction. He couldn't help it. It's just so shocked. But, you know, he has a point where he's like, I was thinking about this, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, isn't this our time? But seriously, enemies becoming best friends when he comes in and they do the thing and he's like, okay, so Jeffrey, and he does the thing and Mr. Hand got his point across.
Yeah.
He taught him through. There was no way he was ever going to get through that thick, caked skull of his, but he did, and he saw it, and there was a mutual kind of admiration, or at least like at the end. You can tell Mr. Hand is that teacher that's been teaching way too long and is just so sick of all the BS and all of the kids, and he gets it right at the end. Nobody's eating in my class and blah, 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 and he locks the thing, and he's a hard ass because he's just tired of it. But deep, deep down, he's a soft cookie that loves what he does and loves the kids.
Yeah, he is.
And that's what is so great about this movie is everybody has dimension.
Yeah.
All the characters have dimension. They're not stereotypes.
I think he also realized at that moment that if he passed him, he wouldn't have to deal with him anymore.
Exactly. He's not going to want him. Whoa, you're going to fail me?
Because you could see that moment where he's like, well, I guess we'll find out next year. And he's like, oh, nope, I'm going to backpedal. Nope, you win.
You'll squeak by, Mr. Spicoli.
They were actually originally going to cast, they wanted Fred Gwynne to play Herman Munster to play the part. Yeah. But Fred Gwynne felt that the script was too obscene and refused.
He would have been great.
Yeah.
What's the Ute?
He's so great. Fred Gwynne.
I adored Fred. We should just do a Fred Gwynne show because he was just so amazing.
Yeah. Vincent Schiavelli as Mr. Vargas, the fantastic character actor.
Such a great character actor. And he was married to... I forget the name of the actress, but if you ever watch Moonlighting, she played the receptionist.
Oh, really?
Mrs. Beasley, maybe, or Mrs.
Oh, yes, I know. I don't remember her name, but I know who you're talking.
And they brought in Vincent Schiavelli,
yeah,
as her love interest.
Oh, really?
And so the husband and wife got to play off each other in
awesome.
Moonlighting, and it was a great little
that's awesome. He's a great actor.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's so bizarre looking.
I think he just passed recently.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. Yeah.
But that guy, so unique looking. He would pop up as like a monk or something a lot. You know, he would always pop up as some bizarre looking.
It would be like suddenly like there he is.
Wasn't he in Ghost?
Yes.
Wasn't he the guy
was one
that
of the
taught
ghosts.
him how to push the penny or something?
Yeah, he taught him how to use his ghost powers or whatever.
What a great guy.
If you've never seen Heat Vision and Jack, he is one of the villains in Heat Vision and Jack. It was a pilot by Ben Stiller and Jack Black.
Yeah.
And Owen Wilson as a talking motorcycle.
Nice.
It's a great... You can check it out. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah. Shame it wasn't picked up.
It was. Also, Forrest Whitaker, one of his first movies, the Amy Heckerling said that after the casting, they saw him leaving, and he was actually skipping to his car because he had such a good audition. And they were like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, and it's great, too, because he's not like some big old buff. He's a big dude.
He's a big dude, yeah.
But he's a little chubby. It's not... That's what I loved about back then. It's just... people were people. They didn't have these super cut, ripped up creatine bodies. You know, it was just kids being kids.
Yeah, he was just a big kid.
Exactly, and that's what. I played football. I don't think very many. Well, there were some guys. This was about the Rambo times. There were a bunch of
guys getting all crazy.
Gym.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage in his first ever movie.
Nicolas Coppola.
Nicolas Coppola using.
So he's still trading off his
uncle's
name.
In fact, on set, apparently he would brag to the other actors about how he was going to be so famous. He was generally disliked on set. He was not a... And he didn't have any... This is the other thing, too, is that he didn't have any lines.
Nope.
I think he was in 2 scenes.
Briefly.
And got
you miss him.
Higher billing than some of the actors that actually had speaking lines.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards. He got a higher billing. He was before... It was kind of like they did the cast... And then they did the blub blub, and then they did the cast.
Yeah.
And then the first part were all like the big cast, and somehow Nick Coppola got on there, even though he was literally an extra. 2 blink and you miss scenes. One, he's standing behind Brad, working at the All-American Burger. Yeah. He's the guy, the fry cook.
Yeah.
Barely see him.
Yeah, in the back, yeah.
And then at the football game, there's another shot of him. And that's it.
That's it. He's a great actor, though. So other minor appearances in the movie, and there are a lot. Martin Brest, who eventually directed Beverly Hills Cop, plays a part.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why both those guys...
Probably.
Were in Beverly. It's such a small... It was such a small business back then.
Sports broadcaster Stu Nahan as himself.
Such a great...
I
love that scene. It's so funny. He is so game too, Stu. And he's like, so what are you going to do? He's like, I just say, whatever nonsense he says, like, that's terrific. So what are you going to...
We really thought it would be these other guys. Nope. But it's you. Taylor Negron as the pizza guy.
He just passed recently.
Literally cast as himself, apparently.
Yes, because Taylor is such, or was, I think he passed. Yeah. But among comedians and among performers, he is a god. And the reason why he's in so much, and they just throw him in, like he's in all the Better Off Dead movies and always plays the same snarky, amazingly off-put character, just... You could he drips with disdain in a way that no other actor ever has. And because he was so good at like improv and sketch and stand up and stuff, everybody just wanted him in everything.
Yeah, he's great. He was great. Pamela Springsteen, the sister of Bruce,
who'd she
is
play?
In the movie. I don't know. It never specified. And she wasn't actually credited. I think she was just an extra. But again, also most likely because of Cameron Crowe. I mean,
sure,
his future wife, Nancy Wilson, from the band Heart, was in the movie. She was the one that sees Brad in his hat when he's delivering the stuff. She's the one that's all like pulls up and is like hee hee, and then takes off, peels out, and he's like quits his job, and then litters so much.
Yeah. And then Cameron Crowe is like, cut, print, marry me, and she's
had some kids.
Yes.
They got divorced in 2010.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that's pretty long. I mean,
they were married for like 30 years.
That's a good run for Hollywood.
Yeah. Producer Stuart Kornfeld, who had produced The Elephant Man and History of the World Part 1.
2 very different movies.
Yeah. He was actually the character Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder is partially based off of Stuart Kornfeld.
Oh, wow.
He was the manager that forces Brad to wear the suit out when he's delivering.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, but like apparently, yes, that was a big
Brad,
thing.
What are you doing?
Exactly. So, of course, one of the biggest things after casting with the movie was the soundtrack. The soundtrack was huge.
This was a time, too, when soundtracks became extremely important. Not just because of the music, but because of the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they finally realized, we can make a lot of money if we throw in some pop hits. But it's funny. The studio usually tries to push the older stuff because they want to sell that part of the catalog. And then the director's like, well, this is the 80s, man. Nobody wants to listen to the Eagles.
That was the producers originally wanted 70s bands and like the Eagles. And it's a surprise, one of the film's producers was the personal manager of the Eagles. So he was pushing for it.
I don't know. What about the Eagles? Rick, don't you manage the Eagles? Do I? Yeah, I guess I do, but I don't know. I mean, they're still a good band. What about the Eagles?
But Amy Heckerling was smart and said, no, we're going to use modern music.
It's kind of a mix, actually.
Well, that's the funny thing is that a lot of the guys from the Eagles actually appear on the soundtrack, just not as the Eagles.
Yeah, you got Jackson Brown, and you got,
yeah.
well, he's not an Eagle, but you got
Joe Walsh, who did some of the score as well.
He's the only Eagle I really like.
Oh, yeah?
I can stand a little bit of Don Henley.
They have certain songs that are okay, but for the most part,
The Eagles are garbage. True story. Not as bad as the Beach Boys, though.
Several of the movie songs were released as singles. Jackson Brown's Somebody's Baby reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. They had a lot of people write music for the movie. Like Cameron Crowe, using his Rolling Stone, panache, asked all these people to write music for the movie. So they released a lot of it. The title track by Sammy Hagar, the cover of The Times So Much in Love by Timothy B. Schmidt, Raised on the Radio by the Ravens, and Waffle Stomp by Joe Walsh.
Well, he also had Moving in Stereo by the Cars.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bands. Rick Ocasek.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a lot. There was more music in the soundtrack than there was released on the soundtrack.
The huge get was Zeppelin, because they never really allowed anything.
No, they were, and it was all because of Cameron Crowe, flat out.
And if you look at the credits, Zeppelin gets its own Cashmere special thank you for letting, and there's no way that was going on the soundtrack.
No, God, no. Cameron Crowe does say that every time anybody brings up Fast Times, they have to point out to him that Kashmir is not on Led Zeppelin 4.
Sure.
and
never make a mistake, man.
He's like, yeah, we shot them at different times, and we couldn't get the song we wanted, and they gave us Kashmir. So, yeah. So there's also American Girl by Tom Petty, which was not included on the soundtrack.
Nope.
We got The Beat by the Go-Go's.
All the best songs are not on the soundtrack.
Actually, and Cameron Crowe asked Todd Rundgren and Hart to write songs for the movie, which they did, but then weren't included on the soundtrack.
Yikes.
Both of them ended up being released eventually. Todd Rundgren was on a B-sides thing, and eventually they released it as a 1983 album or something.
Who wants to make that? And he's still married.
And he's still married.
The Hart lady.
Yeah.
Even after he said, your song sucks. We're not putting on the soundtrack or in the movie. Eat it. He did a victimone. He demoned her.
He did.
He demoned her. He used the 4 demone point plan and somehow and that's how he married
Nancy Wilson.
Nancy Hart.
Nancy Wilson.
From the Hearts.
Nancy Wilson.
From Wild at Hearts.
Okay. So the movie was released to a modest box office success. It was a 29th highest-grossing movie of 1982. Much like most things we cover, has definitely gotten better with age.
Oh yeah.
It is become a huge cult hit. I mean, it's like getting into a time machine and watching a documentary about the early 80s.
Hey man, it's like watching a documentary about going to high school. You know, it's about that's youth, man. Going to the mall, swimming with your friends. That's California. Everything they I didn't have a pool house or anything like that. No. But that's all. We'd go to the mall, we'd hang out, we'd go swimming. We'd sneak some booze, fool around. We had such a great time because we were free range kids when we were young. Mm-hmm. And we had so much freedom when we were older. Out till 10, just be back by 10, be back by 11. Like I said, we'd do mailbox baseball, or we'd TP people's houses, or we'd just do stupid stuff because our hormones were out of whack. We just got to be very free and make a lot of mistakes and pay for those mistakes.
I never got caught doing anything because my curfew was literally to be home before my parents wake up.
Wow.
They trusted me enough that they said, as long as you're awake or you're home when we wake up, you're good.
Well, that's good. They didn't wake up until noon. His parents were very lazy.
Yes, they usually slept until about 6 p.m. the next day.
I am 100% joking. Your parents are very hardworking, wonderful people.
They were great. They were, But it was nice because it was like giving that level of trust that I was like, okay, I'm not gonna break this because you're trusting me to do this.
Yeah.
And there would be times we'd push it. They'd want to know where we're going and stuff. But.
Yeah. It wasn't about they didn't care about us. I think it was more that they trusted us, and they realized that we did have to make mistakes. We did have to do stuff, and there was a certain understanding. Your kids are gonna drink. Your kids are gonna do whatever. It was just like, just don't drive or don't do whatever. We didn't listen.
Don't be stupid.
No, we were all stupid. We all drove drunk. I was the vice president of SAD in my school, and I had a bottle of vodka that I had under the driver's seat of my Fiero. So, yeah, I mean, we were all a bunch of idiots that should have never come out alive or out in jail or whatever, but we all somehow survived.
You did. In 2005, the movie was registered in the National Film Registry by the National Film Preservation Board, meaning that it is now going to be in the Library of Congress.
Nice.
And, for everyone to watch forever. The film inspired a short-lived 1986 television series titled Fast Times.
Oh, I remember that. I totally remember that. They had, wasn't Miss Ray Walston in that?
Ray Walston and Vincent Schiavelli both reprised their roles as Hand and Vargas. Yeah, they cast new other people, obviously, in the parts, and not all of them.
Courtney Thorne-Smith?
Courtney Thorne-Smith played Stacy, the Jennifer Jason Leigh part from Melrose Place, and according to Jim, everybody remembers according to Jim.
Oh, the show. I thought you were talking about me.
Sorry,
you're looking at me. I'm like, according to me, what?
Sorry, just according to Jim is my pinnacle of the worst sitcom.
Oh, it's Jim Belushi.
Yeah. It's just bad.
Okay.
Claudia Wells played Linda Barrett. The Linda character, she played Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future. She was the original girlfriend in the Back to the Future. Wally Ward is Mark Ratner, who was on the Larry Sanders Show. He was the head writer on the Larry Sanders Show.
Yeah, he's great. He was a great actor.
He was fantastic. And on CSI. Patrick Dempsey, in one of his first parts, is as Mike Damone.
So weird, because Dempsey, he played a lot of nerds, man. He was he was like the nerd guy in the 80s. He had that string of movies,
Can't Buy Me Love.
Can't Buy Me Love, and what was that Pizza Boy one?
That was I don't remember.
Mr. Romance or something.
Something where he was essentially a gigolo.
Yeah,
he was,
a nerd. But the Can't Buy Me Love.
Can't Buy Me Love.
That was a great movie.
One of my favorite comedies.
And it was like one of the first kind of Pygmalion type. High school movies where they take the nerd and turn him into the popular guy.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Dean Cameron played Spicoli, who was Chainsaw in Mark Harmon's Summer School. I shouldn't say Mark Harmon's Summer School because he didn't direct it, but he was in it.
Yes. He was a Mark Harmon vehicle. That's a great movie too, by the way.
The
Summer School.
Summer School, fantastic. I think it's a completely underrated movie.
100%. Great cast. Back when Kirstie Alley was funny and not an insane Trumpian or whatever the hell she is these days. But man, what a good movie.
Summer School was one of those movies that was on almost every day on like one of the page channels. So I would watch it.
Look, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this 100% unabashedly. This is the truth, baby. The truth. The 80s, there has never been a better time for teen comedies than the 80s.
Yeah.
Look at what we got.
Yeah.
We not only Fast Times, not only Summer School, but we got Breakfast Club.
I mean, really, Fast Times was the first one, and you see it because you go to something like in the 90s with like Not Another Teen Movie, which was like making fun of these teen movies, and it's play for play like Fast Times.
Well, honestly, I think Not Another Teen Movie was more making fun of like She's All That and the newer brand of like
but that was
90s movies.
Right, but it was because those newer 90s movies were trying to be these 80s movies and failing miserably.
Well, the problem with the 90s movies is they stylized them. They cast super, super attractive people. They kept making these teen movies for adults where the teens would talk like adults or the teens would just be completely stereotypes. I like She's All That. I think that's a fun movie. I love that movie. But the kids, it doesn't have the same kind of heart.
No, agreed.
A little bit. Freddie Prinze Jr., they give him some depth, and they definitely give her some depth. But it's like, it's that manufactured stuff. Like, okay, her mom's dead, and she paints, and he has a lot of pressure on him, and he doesn't want to have to be this guy. But it's not, hey, he knocked her up, and she has to figure out if she wants to get an abortion or not, and it doesn't, it just didn't have the realism. They all drive really great cars, and it's a very Hollywoodization of youth that kind of ruined it for kids because it gave them something that they couldn't live up to or they couldn't so much, I guess, identify with.
Yeah.
Because you don't see a lot of these movies anymore.
No.
You're starting to see a few come back because they're getting back to what it is to be.
There's
like Euphoria, like shows where they're not comedies per se, but they do get into what it's the complexities of being a kid.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, Fast Times is quaint, baby.
Yeah.
You know, that childhood, our childhood was quaint. You know, we didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all these pressures.
Right.
The same.
These modern crazy things.
Sure. And it's just, universe loved these kids for being able to navigate all this stuff, because
can't imagine being a kid right now.
No, it is so, there's just so much pressure, so much more pressure with TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. Watching Fast Times again was very nostalgic. It was really cool to see what it was like going to the record store, picking up some CDs, picking up some records.
Hanging out at the mall.
I ate those square pizzas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that place, we went and got a couple of slices and a Coke, and you sat at the food court, and then you went to the movies, and then you bought a couple of albums, and you went back to your buddy's house and spent the night and listened to the albums, talked about the girls you talked to, and what you would do if you bleepity blue, not knowing anything about anything.
You pretend you know.
And it was quaint, man. You know, it was still complicated and complex, and it hurt, and it had all those emotions and all of that pain and anguish that it is to be a kid. But I honestly think that these kids today, they seriously, man, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able. It would be too much stress and too much pressure.
Look, if you want to see what it was like for your folks when they were in high school, check out Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Really great movie.
And it's not, if you've never seen it, it's a great movie. You'll identify with it because it's a timeless themes of just being a kid.
Everybody's felt like a nerd. Everybody's felt uncomfortable. Everybody's felt pressure. And all of this comes across. And if you haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. And especially if you haven't seen it as an adult, it's really interesting to watch it with wise eyes. And I highly recommend it. And watching it again, it's another example of a perfect movie. Like, I wouldn't change anything on that.
No.
Because it's just
100%. It's
so magical that you just kind of step into this high school for an hour and a half, and then you step out.
It's so amazing.
You know, there's no life-changing situations. There's no deaths. There's
just them being
just
kids.
High school, man.
Trying to grow up.
And that stuff, is hard enough. You don't need all the extra, manufactured drama.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to manufacture drama when growing up is tough enough.
And as we've always said, you save that drama for your mama. And we'll be back next week with another back to school little situation.
A bit of an underdog.
A deep dive. 3 o'clock high. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Pamela Springsteen, the sister of Bruce, not the brother. Is Pamela. Wow. Rah!
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming, Silver Spoons, already in progress.